Welcome to Noob. Today, before starting today's Tech Byte, I will be telling you what inspired me to shoot this byte. So here it goes. As you can very well see, a astronaut fixing the puzzle of the universe. So this picture or this creative work by Miss Anusha, I'll be providing her Insta account. This has actually inspired me to shoot today's video. For me, this astronaut is basically signifying, or he can is the representative of the science and tech community, and the puzzle is basically the problems that we are facing in today's world and across the globe, across the universe, every problem, and science has a solution to it, and science is trying to solve those problems. So today's discussion will be on this topic, that tech, and is it a boon for the cure of depression? So before starting that, a huge shout out to Anusha for this creative artwork, and I'll be giving her Insta account in the link. Recently, the depression issue took a limelight in our country just because of the death of Sushant Singh Rajput, a Bollywood actor who was inspiration for many. But trust me, this issue of depression has been in our society since long and will continue in our society for long if we don't do anything about it. Just putting stories and statuses that we are with you, we are here to listen to you, don't suicide, they talk to us. This is not the real solution actually. We can have a technical side of the solution, some the social, some behavioral, but today in this video I will talk about the technical side of this solution, technical side of the solution, and what can be done for this, and if we should take some steps towards this. So first of all, as I remember, it was a year back or something. I had a friend who was studying with me in my school days. He was undergoing depression. So the first thing that everyone does, Google about depression, and Google as usual throws up the medications, the symptoms, the treatments, the behavioral therapy, and all these things. Google does that because it's not the fault of Google, it's Google's algorithms that make it do. Because if you put any disease, it will do the same. So when we get all those things, we read it and we are like, okay, chilled about it. But what I did was I researched about it, means in the sense that Googled bit more, went to the page 2 or 3. So it was a lab session to be honest, and it was not related to this depression and all this. It was a lab session of embedded systems, and me and my two group mates like Niala and Umsman. We basically were what we guys were doing was we're discussing about this topic and how machine learning can solve this issue. So we three came to a conclusion by few Google search that machine learning, supervised machine learning, can actually help in this issue as we feed the input data as the facial expressions of people, and the supervised machine learning will basically give us the prediction if the person is suffering from any mental ailment or illness. And I was like, Eureka, we should get the Nobel Prize, right? We have gave the idea of this machine learning thing, behavioral, facial expressions, and all this thing. But trust me, the answer is a big no, because within few more Google searches, Google threw us at our face the research papers and few articles that said facial expressions are not necessarily the conclusive evidence for the mental illness or mental ailments. So basically, we the noobs thought it to be a miracle, but actually, facial expressions are not conclusive of any mental illness or mental depression or ailments. Facial expressions are not universally conclusive of mental illness. So I'll be justifying this statement with few points. And the first point is going to be Cultural variations. What we consider polite can be offensive in some other region of the world. For example, if I am saying something in my region that is polite or that is offensive, maybe in some different part of the world it can be the opposite. Who knows? In what locality, what takes place, and in what region of the world, what kind of behavior is considered to be polite and offensive. So definitely our facial expressions cannot justify, the expressions cannot justify how we are perceiving the things. Also, few expressions are mismatched. I have seen people who give a nod to yes and nod to no also. So how to differentiate? So these all things come under cultural variations. So these all points have been summed up from the research papers and articles. I'll be giving few research papers and articles linked in the description. So do check those and get the knowledge of all these things. The next point is a mental illness of no facial expression. So some may have guessed it right. Schizophrenia. So, in this mental illness, one of the symptoms is that the patient may develop catanoia or basically no facial expression. So, what happens is it conclusive that a person who is giving no facial expression suffers from schizophrenia or any other mental illness? Not, not universally right, right? We can say that if someone is not giving facial expression, then he must be suffering from schizophrenia or any other mental illness which is related to no facial expression. So that's another reason that we can say that facial expressions are not conclusive of any mental illness. And the third point is a satire on grand viva. To be honest, my BTech life ended with a grand viva, and that was basically you have to smile throughout the grand viva, even if your everything is burning. I mean, your brain and heart is burning with knowledge. You have to smile throughout. So basically, what you sow in your face is not going inside is correct. So the satire thing, don't take it seriously. But third point is like everyone will feel it. All those final year 2020 batch graduates. So with those points, you must be clear that facial expressions are not conclusive of our mental state or mental health. So they are universally not conclusive. So the question arises, is there any technology developing or people are working on technologies that can give us a guaranteed way of determining the state of mental health? So yeah, I will just point out few methods. Basically, I'm going to discuss in this video the non-invasive method, but there are two methods to determine the mental health which is under research and people are researching on it. One is the invasive method, the other is the non-invasive method. The invasive method should be discussed in future in other tech bytes videos, but the non-invasive method is basically the electroencephalogram method. What is EEG or electroencephalogram? Everyone must be aware of ECG because you must be having some patients near your house or in your family who are suffering from heart ailments or anything. And ECG is basically electrocardiogram, and they measure the signal sent by the sinoatrial node in your heart. And similarly, electroencephalogram measures the signals that are sent in our brain from a neuron. So basically, what are the waves or the signals that are present in our brain? So in electroencephalogram or EEG, what is basically done is, suppose imagine this is your skull, and they bring electrodes, multiple electrodes, and they basically insert it on your scalp. By insertion, I don't mean that they are inserting inside your skull. Basically, they are attaching it to your outer membrane or the follicle layer of your head. And imagine that the brain is located after the cranium. That is a very thick layer of cranium. Then there is a fluid that protects our brain, and the signal in a neuron of brain is being perceived by these electrodes, and how we can get insightful data out of it. What happens is the electrodes perceive the signal. Now this signal is fed into an amplifier. What does an amplifier do? It amplifies the signal so that we can do computations on it easily. After that, with this amplified signal, we are going to do the inference, that is gain insightful data. So these so signals or waves of the brain that we call brain waves, we are going to discuss them. The first one that I am going to discuss is the delta wave. So delta wave is the slowest one. By slowest I mean its frequency must be very less, that is in the range of 1 to 3 hertz. And delta waves are associated with the state of sleep. So when we are sleeping, your brain neurons must be sending out this maximum number of waves in the range of this delta region or delta waves, slow signals, because you're asleep. Your body is not functioning. Your body is not conscious to what is happening around you. You are in a state of sleep or your idleness. So basically, these slow signals flow, and this is called the delta wave or the delta region of the EEG. So the next brainwave that I am going to tell you is the theta brainwave. Now, these waves lie in the range of 4 to 7 hertz, and above all, these waves are a part of association with something that we call din mein tare ginna or like din mein sapne dekhna and all those things, because it's like a state of lousy and state of peace, or you can call it daydreaming. Often it is observed that theta wave is more in case of mental inefficiency. So now I'll be discussing the third brainwave, that is alpha brainwave. Its range is between 8 to 12 hertz, and this signal basically shows that when we are seeing there is a growth in more alpha waves in your brain going on, basically it is state of like extreme calmness, extreme calmness, and you can say that you are basically, when you close your eyes and you imagine something peaceful, you can see a rapid growth in alpha waves in your brain, and you can read them on your EEG basically. So the next wave is beta wave. It lies in the range of 13 to 32 hertz, approximately. So these beta waves are associated with the state of alertness. What I mean by this is, suppose you are listening to a lecture very attentively with full focus, then you will see that your brain waves will be rich in this signal of beta kind, that is 13 to 32 hertz. So it is associated with the state of alertness. And I will come to the next wave and the last wave that is important, that is your gamma waves. These are fastest of the waves. The frequency is higher than other waves, so they are fastest. And above all, these are associated with the state of consciousness and perception. What I mean by this is, suppose I pinch you, then you give a reaction, right? At that moment, if your brain signals are studied, you will see that they're rich in gamma waves. So these are the five types of waves that are generated in our brain. And imagine the technology that these small electrodes can measure these waves from so up by across the thick layer of the skull, and they are amplifying it and gaining insights. So a if a model can be developed on these waves by studying the nature of these waves on different kind of people who are suffering from any mental illness, and what is the nature of waves and what is the pattern of pattern of change in these waves in their mental state when they are facing anxiety, or when they are too calm, when they are thinking like having suicidal thoughts. And these data can be processed and these data can be fed into a model to determine a model basically which will predict beforehand that a person is tending towards depression. So this area needs to be focused on, and yeah, research is going on in these areas. But to be honest, at our graduation level, that is, we don't come across in engineering across all these things, but we can come across all these things if we are interested in this field, and machine learning can definitely be used here by using these wave signals. And you can take a median or average of the brain signal and can deploy a model and see if it's actually works in practicality or not. And above all, but there is a problem here also. I'm going to say you that, and definitely you will be amazed that even if this things EEG exists, but still there is a problem. And yes, the problem is, do we really have such hardware that is portable and easily accessible? The answer is portable for sure, no. Easily accessible is also no. Because if you want to have conduct an EEG, you need to go to a specialist who is or a technician who is dealing with this EEG day to day in some lab or in basically big hospitals who have this equipment. So accessible easily is not at all. And the portable thing of the machine is not at all portable. It's not like a mobile phone that you can see your brain waves by just seeing watching a mobile, and you can install an app and you'll see the brain waves. It is not, we have not reached that development yet. So that creates an area for development. So yes, students who are interested in developing such gadgets, that everything you imagine is possible. So in future, maybe in your mobile, you will be watching your brain waves, and you're watching your ECG, your heart waves dancing on those mobile screens. of OLED display. So basically, that's the thing. Everything you imagine is possible, and just you have to work on that field. I just gave you an idea of on which you can do a project in which you can think of some innovation in this. And yeah, the non-invasive byte tech byte will be in some other tech byte in future. I'll be discussing about it. But this invasive method can be developed. And yes, I will give you a hint. You can, if any one of you is a fan of Netflix, then he must have watched the series Black Mirror, in which there's an episode in which he basically takes every human being, or basically it's a generation where a developed generation where people are basically having installations of in implants in their near the ear. They implant it into their brain, and basically it controls all the memory and basically how they perceive the world. It basically stores everything. So if in future such implants come into practice that can insert it into brain and it can be cross-platform with your mobile phone and will be watching your brain waves. So everything is possible if it has come in the series. Some strike someone's mind must be you can develop in it. So that's my bit for today's bite, and stay tuned for the future tech bites. Thank you.